Well, at this point, it's anyone's guess whether SABC Group Executive Hlaudi Motsoeneng will abide by a court decision to have him removed. The Western Cape High Court found his appointment unlawful and irrational. Motsoeneng is also prohibited from occupying any position at the public broadcaster until the conclusion of a disciplinary process. A legal expert, Professor Pierre de Vos, joins me via our Skype line for some analysis now. Good morning to you, Pierre. It's always great to have you on the line. You've written an article talking about the days of Hlaudi's lies, and in it you really seek to clarify what the Western Cape High Court judgment did in terms of his position at the SABC. Please make it plain for us. What is Mr. Motsoeneng's current legal standing as an employee of the SABC?
So the Western Cape High Court said they didn't have enough information to decide whether he was still an employee or not, but they assumed for the purposes of the judgment that he still was an employee of the SABC. At what level they didn't know, but they said, given all the findings against him by the public protector, which has not yet been reviewed or set aside, given by the various court cases that found him to be dishonest and liar, for all those reasons, for the time being, Mr. Motsoeneng is not allowed to occupy any position at the SABC. So in effect, that means he's suspended. He's going to be paid. The court said he shouldn't be paid at the level that he was remunerated for now, but he will be paid, but he's suspended and he's not allowed to go to the SABC and do any work for the SABC.
Yesterday, speaking to his lawyer, Advocate Zola Majavu, he said that their understanding of the court ruling was that he remains in his job until the public protector report is either set aside or they conduct a second disciplinary inquiry just into his conduct at the SABC. And they've now written to the SABC about what position the public broadcaster wants to take from here on. Is that approach correct?
Well, if the approach is correct in as much as the implication of the High Court judgment is that for the time being, he is still an employee of the SABC. Writing to the SABC is not really going to help because the court was very clear. He is suspended. He's not allowed to go to work. So the SABC cannot circumvent the court decision and allow Mr. Motsoeneng to come back to the SABC, because if they do, then they would be in contempt of court. The problem that they have is that they could maybe have circumvented the court case by trying to appeal it. But there's no board, so the board cannot take a decision to appeal the case. So they will have to do it in their personal capacity, and the court has already said that they will have to pay personally both the chief financial officer and Mr. Motsoeneng for the court case. And of course, if they try and appeal, they might have to pay for that too. So it could be very costly, and this might have an effect on dissuading them not to go to court again, because so far they have lost every single court case that they have taken to the courts.
Pierre, as it stands, you say that Mr. Motsoeneng is technically not allowed to go back to work. What then does this mean for him going forward? Is there another process that he has that he can actually begin again? You've crossed out the possibility of an appeal. What options are still available to him?
Yes, there's an option of, the court said there are two ways in which he could go back. The first one is if the SABC reviews through the courts and sets aside the public protector's damning findings against him. The second option would be to have an independent disciplinary hearing again. They declared the previous disciplinary hearing to have been a sham and to have not been valid. So that was set aside. There can be a new hearing set. That new hearing will have to be chaired by somebody that is selected from a panel of people selected by the judges themselves, so that it have to be independent. And that disciplinary hearing will have to consider all the charges that the public protector raised in her report, not just some of them as the original and now invalid disciplinary hearing did.
So if I understand you correctly, Pierre, it means that basically at this point, Mr. Motsoeneng, while he is suspended, he remains in the employ of the SABC. And so whatever action here going forward, it would either, there would need to be some kind of process in place for him to not be an employee of the SABC.
Yes, the High Court said because the public protector process doesn't work like a labor relations context. So there's not a hearing where everybody gets a chance to cross-examine all these kind of things. It's a different process. Because of that, there might need to be another disciplinary hearing. But of course, that disciplinary hearing cannot, as the previous disciplinary hearing did, completely ignore the public protector's findings. If it did, that hearing would also be a sham and would also be unlawful and invalid.
Well, what impact do you think that the process that we're also watching unfold, this is through Parliament's ad hoc committee, what do you think that process is going to have then on Mr. Motsoeneng's future going forward? Should the current board be disbanded and Parliament appoint a new board in place?
Well, if there's a new board, obviously, and the new board has integrity and is independent, and then the Mr. Motsoeneng's days at the SABC is almost certainly going to be numbered, because there's been court judgments, findings against him. There's been a public protector finding against him that he committed fraud, that he's dishonest, that he acted unlawfully. So it is very difficult to see that anybody who's actually wanting to turn the SABC around, and one would assume that the new board would want to do that, that they would allow Mr. Motsoeneng to continue in his position.
Do you think that some of the details that we've heard coming out of this inquiry just about what has been happening at the SABC is on some level an indictment on Parliament and its ability to hold state-owned enterprises to account?
Well, there's the first problem is, of course, that Parliament is the body that actually appointed the board. So the question is, why would Parliament have appointed the board when that board was clearly not capable of doing the job that it did? Secondly, the president selected from that board the chairperson. From judging by yesterday's performance of the chairperson, it's not clear that he has the abilities to actually be the chairperson of a board like the SABC. And thirdly, as you correctly say, Parliament turned a blind eye for the last 5 years to what was going on at the SABC, and in many respects protected the SABC and Mr. Motsoeneng. So it is interesting that this happens now. It probably has something to do with the politics within the governing party as much as it has with the outrageous behavior of the people inside the SABC.
All right, Pierre, thank you so much for your time. Legal expert Professor Pierre de Vos on the Skype line to us, just giving context about what the current situation is with regard to Hlaudi Motsoeneng and his position at the SABC. Let's continue.